The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the grounds of Sunspire Academy. The air buzzed with excitement and nervous energy as students hurried to gather in the central courtyard. It was a day everyone had been waiting for, the start of the fiery trial. This was no ordinary test. It was a legendary challenge designed to push students to their limits. For some, it would be a chance to prove themselves. For others, it might mean the end of their time at the academy. Alex Carter stood near the edge of the crowd, his hands shoved deep into his pockets. He wasn't sure if he was ready for this. His dark hair was slightly messy from running his fingers through it too many times, a habit he had when he was anxious. Around him, other students chatted loudly, but Alex stayed quiet, his sharp eyes scanning the area. He noticed Mia Dawson standing a few feet away. Her auburn hair was tied back neatly, and she looked calm, almost like she didn't have a care in the world. Alex admired that about her. She always seemed so confident, even when things got tough. Mr. Grayson, the instructor overseeing the trial, stepped forward to address the group. His tall frame and stern expression commanded attention. "Listen up," he said in a firm voice that silenced the chatter instantly. "Today marks the beginning of the fiery trial. You will face challenges that will test your strength, intelligence, and teamwork. Each of you will be paired randomly, and failure is not an option. Those who cannot complete the trial will leave Sunspire Academy." A ripple of unease passed through the crowd. Alex swallowed hard. Random pairings meant he could end up with anyone, someone he worked well with or someone who made everything harder. Mr. Grayson pulled out a small device and pressed a button. Names appeared on a screen behind him, pairing students together. Alex's heart raced as he waited for his name to appear. Finally, it flashed on the screen. Alex Carter and Mia Dawson. He blinked, surprised but relieved. Out of all the people he could have been paired with, Mia wasn't a bad choice. She was smart, capable, and level-headed. When their eyes met, she gave him a small nod. It wasn't much, but it was enough to reassure him. They walked toward each other and stood side by side, ready to face whatever lay ahead. As the crowd dispersed, Alex turned to Mia. "Guess we're stuck together," he said with a nervous smile. "Looks like it," she replied, her tone calm but serious. "We'll need to stick close and watch each other's backs down there." He nodded, feeling a bit more confident. "Yeah, teamwork sounds good right now." The entrance to the underground tunnels where the trial would take place loomed ahead. It was dark and mysterious, hinting at the dangers inside. Students filed in one by one, their faces tense with anticipation. Alex and Mia followed, stepping into the cool, damp air of the tunnel. The light from outside faded quickly, replaced by the dim glow of lanterns hanging along the walls. "This is it," Mia whispered, glancing around. "Let's stay sharp." Alex tightened his grip on his utility belt, feeling the weight of what was to come. Whatever happened next, he knew one thing for sure. They were in this together. And somehow, that thought made the unknown feel a little less scary. The air grew colder as Alex and Mia ventured deeper into the underground tunnels. The flickering lanterns cast eerie shadows on the walls, making it hard to tell what was real and what was just a trick of the light. Their footsteps echoed softly against the stone floor, the sound bouncing off the narrow passageways. Neither of them spoke much. They were too focused on staying alert. Every corner they turned felt like it could lead to something dangerous, or something that would test them in ways they couldn't predict. After walking for what felt like hours, they reached a massive cavern. In the middle of it stood a rickety wooden bridge suspended over a deep chasm. Below, glowing magma bubbled and hissed, sending waves of heat rising toward them. The sight made Alex's stomach churn. He wasn't afraid of heights, but this was different. One wrong step, and they'd fall straight into the fiery pit below. Maya stepped forward first, her boots clicking lightly on the wooden planks. "Stay close," she said without looking back. Her voice was steady, but Alex noticed how tightly she gripped the railing. He followed behind her, keeping his eyes fixed on her back instead of the lava far below. The bridge swayed slightly with every step, creaking under their weight. It wasn't helping Alex's nerves. Halfway across, disaster struck. One of the ropes holding the bridge snapped with a loud crack, causing the whole structure to tilt dangerously to one side. Alex stumbled, grabbing onto the remaining rope with both hands. His heart raced as he tried to steady himself. "Mia," he shouted, his voice trembling. She reacted quickly, pulling out her grappling hook from her belt. With practiced precision, she fired it at the wall above them. The hook caught securely, and she used it to anchor herself. Then, turning to Alex, she held out her free hand. "Grab on," she called. Alex hesitated for a split second before reaching out. Their fingers locked together, and with a firm tug, Mia helped him regain his footing. Together, they worked to stabilize the tilting bridge. Using pieces of broken wood and loose rocks, they managed to wedge the planks back into place. It wasn't perfect, but it was enough to let them cross safely. When they finally reached the other side, Alex collapsed onto the ground, breathing heavily. "That was not fun," he muttered, wiping sweat from his forehead. Mia chuckled softly, though her face still showed traces of tension. "Could have been worse," she said, sitting down beside him. "At least we're still in one piece." For a moment, they simply sat there, letting the adrenaline fade. Alex glanced at Mia, noticing how calm she seemed despite everything. "Thanks for pulling me up back there," he said. "I don't think I would have made it without you." "You would have figured it out," she replied with a shrug. "But yeah, teamwork helps." Alex nodded, feeling a renewed sense of determination. If they could handle something as terrifying as that bridge, maybe they could handle whatever else the trial threw at them. Standing up, he offered Mia a hand. "Ready for the next part?" She took his hand and pulled herself to her feet. "As ready as I'll ever be." They pressed onward, leaving the chasm behind. The path ahead was darker and narrower than before, but neither of them hesitated. They had already faced one challenge head-on, and they knew they could do it again. Whatever came next, they would face it together. The thought gave Alex a small measure of comfort. Even in the dim, shadowy tunnels, he felt a little less alone with Mia by his side. And as they moved deeper into the unknown, their bond grew stronger with every step they took. The deeper Alex and Mia went into the tunnels, the quieter it became. The only sounds were their footsteps and the occasional drip of water echoing in the distance. The air felt heavier, almost suffocating, and the dim light from their lanterns barely pushed back the darkness. They stayed close to each other, their eyes scanning the shadows for anything unusual. Suddenly, the lanterns flickered. For a brief moment, everything went pitch black. Alex froze, his heart pounding in his chest. "Mia?" He called out softly, his voice trembling. "I'm here," she replied, her tone calm but firm. A soft glow appeared as she activated a small luminescent orb she had tucked in her bag. Its pale light illuminated their surroundings just enough to see the outlines of the walls and floor. But what caught Alex's attention were the shapes darting at the edges of the light, shadowy figures that moved too quickly to make out clearly. "What are those?" Alex whispered, gripping his plasma baton tightly. Before Mia could answer, the figures lunged at them. One of them swiped at Alex, its claws grazing his arm. He swung his baton instinctively, the weapon crackling with energy as it connected with the creature. The shadowy figure dissipated into thin air, leaving behind a faint wisp of smoke. "They're holograms," Mia shouted, pulling out her own weapon. "They're testing our combat skills." More figures appeared, surrounding them. Alex and Mia stood back to back, their movements synchronized as they fought off the attackers. Alex focused on keeping his strikes precise, while Mia used quick, calculated jabs to take down the creatures one by one. The holograms seemed endless, pouring in from every direction. It was exhausting, but they didn't let up. At one point, Alex stumbled over a loose rock, losing his balance. One of the figures pounced toward him, its glowing red eyes locking onto his. Just as it was about to strike, Mia stepped in front of him, deflecting the attack with her weapon. "Stay sharp," she said sharply, her voice cutting through the chaos. Alex nodded, regaining his footing. He forced himself to focus, ignoring the fatigue creeping into his muscles. Together, they formed a rhythm. Maya would block and redirect, while Alex delivered powerful blows to finish off the holograms. Slowly but surely, the number of attackers began to dwindle. Finally, the last figure vanished with a loud pop, leaving the tunnel silent once more. Alex leaned against the wall, breathing heavily. His arms ached, and his shirt clung to his skin with sweat. Beside him, Mia wiped her forehead with the back of her hand, her expression tense but satisfied. "That was intense," Alex said between breaths. Mia nodded. "Yeah, but we handled it. Good job back there." He managed a small smile. "Same to you. I wouldn't have made it without your help." For a moment, they simply stood there, catching their breath and letting the adrenaline fade. The fight had been brutal, but it had also shown them how well they worked together. They didn't need to say it out loud. They both knew they made a good team. After a few minutes, Maya straightened up and adjusted her gear. "We should keep moving," she said, glancing ahead. "There's probably more waiting for us." Alex nodded, pushing off the wall. "Right. Let's go." They continued down the tunnel, their steps slower but steady. The encounter with the holograms had drained them, but it had also taught them something valuable. No matter how tough things got, they could rely on each other. That thought gave Alex a small spark of confidence as they pressed onward, ready to face whatever came next. The tunnel opened up into a large, circular chamber that made Alex and Mia pause in awe. The walls were covered in intricate carvings, twisting patterns of fire and water, light and shadow, that seemed to glow faintly in the dim light. At the center of the room stood a stone pedestal, and on top of it rested an ancient tablet etched with strange symbols. The air felt heavy, as if the room itself was holding its breath. Before either of them could speak, a deep, resonant voice echoed through the chamber. "Solve the riddle to proceed." The words seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once, sending a shiver down Alex's spine. Maya stepped forward first, her eyes scanning the tablet. "It's some kind of puzzle," she said, her voice steady despite the eerie atmosphere. She knelt down to examine the symbols more closely, her fingers tracing the grooves lightly. Alex joined her, his brow furrowed in concentration. "What does it say?" he asked, squinting at the markings. They looked like nothing he'd ever seen before. Lines, dots, and swirls arranged in a way that made no immediate sense. "I'm not sure yet," Mia admitted. She glanced up at the walls, studying the carvings. These might be clues. For several minutes, they worked in silence. Mia focused on the carvings, piecing together their meanings, while Alex studied the tablet, trying to decipher the symbols. It was frustrating work, but neither of them gave up. Every so often, one of them would mutter something under their breath or point out a detail they thought was important. Finally, Alex's eyes lit up. "Wait," he said, pointing at the tablet. "Look at this part. It talks about opposites. Fire and water, light and dark. Maybe it's about balance." Mia's gaze snapped to him, her expression brightening. "That makes sense. The carvings on the walls show those elements working together, not fighting against each other." They exchanged a quick glance, excitement bubbling between them. Together, they pieced the final answer together. Balance binds the forces, harmony lights the way. As soon as Alex spoke the words aloud, the room trembled slightly. The tablet glowed brightly for a moment, then went dark. A hidden door in the wall slid open with a low grinding sound, revealing a narrow passageway beyond. "We did it," Maya said, smiling at Alex. Her relief was evident, but there was also a flicker of pride in her eyes. "Teamwork strikes again," Alex replied, grinning back. He couldn't help but feel a surge of confidence. Solving the riddle had been tough, but working together had made it possible. They didn't waste any time celebrating. The next challenge was waiting just beyond the door, and they both knew they couldn't afford to linger. As they stepped into the new passageway, the air grew warmer, almost stifling. The walls here were rough and jagged, glowing faintly with veins of molten rock. The faint smell of sulfur filled the air, making Alex wrinkle his nose. "This doesn't look fun," he muttered, gripping his plasma baton tighter. "It never is," Maya said with a small laugh, though her tone was serious. "But we've made it this far. Let's keep going." The path ahead was narrow and winding, forcing them to move carefully. Every step felt heavier than the last, the heat pressing down on them like a weight. Despite the discomfort, they pressed on, their determination unwavering. They had faced dangers and solved puzzles together, and they weren't about to give up now. As they moved deeper into the fiery maze, Alex found himself thinking about how much they had accomplished as a team. Each challenge had tested them in different ways, but they had always managed to pull through. Whatever lay ahead, he knew they could handle it, as long as they stayed together. The narrow passageway opened into a massive maze carved from volcanic rock. Rivers of molten lava flowed between the paths, casting an orange glow that made the entire area feel like it was on fire. The heat was intense, pressing against Alex and Mia like a heavy blanket. Beads of sweat formed on their foreheads almost instantly, and the soles of their boots felt uncomfortably warm against the heated ground. "This is insane," Alex muttered, taking a cautious step forward. He glanced down at the bubbling lava streams that crisscrossed the maze. One wrong move, and they'd be in serious trouble. Mia nodded, her eyes scanning the area. "We need to stay focused. Every path looks the same, but there's got to be a way through." They started moving carefully, choosing their steps with precision. The walls of the maze were jagged and uneven, making it hard to tell which direction was safest. At every turn, they hesitated, debating whether to go left or right. The wrong choice could lead them into a dead end, or worse, closer to the deadly lava. At one point, Maya slipped on a patch of loose gravel near the edge of a lava stream. Her foot skidded, and she nearly fell in. Alex reacted quickly, grabbing her arm and pulling her back to safety. His heart raced as he steadied her, his grip firm but gentle. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice tense with concern. "I'm fine," Maya replied, though her hands trembled slightly as she brushed herself off. "Thanks for catching me." Alex let out a shaky breath. "No problem. Just try not to scare me like that again." She gave him a small, grateful smile before turning her attention back to the maze. They pressed onward, more cautious now. The heat was relentless, and their clothes clung to their skin, damp with sweat. Despite the discomfort, they didn't stop. Every wrong turn only fueled their determination to find the right path. As they navigated deeper into the maze, Alex noticed something odd. Some of the lava streams seemed to pulse rhythmically, almost like they were alive. He pointed it out to Mia. "Do you see that? It's like the lava's moving in patterns." Mia squinted at the glowing streams. "You're right. Maybe it's another clue." They studied the pulsing lava closely, trying to decipher its rhythm. After a few moments, Mia's eyes widened. "It's showing us the way. Look, when the lava flows faster, it's pointing toward the safe path." Alex followed her gaze, watching as the lava surged briefly in one direction. "That's brilliant," he said, impressed. "Let's follow it." Using the lava's rhythm as a guide, they began to make progress. The maze no longer felt so daunting. Instead, it became a puzzle they could solve together. They moved quickly but carefully, trusting the pattern to lead them safely through. Finally, after what felt like hours, they reached the end of the maze. A wide opening loomed ahead, cool air rushing toward them like a welcome relief. They stepped out of the fiery labyrinth, their legs trembling with exhaustion. The contrast between the scorching heat of the maze and the cooler air outside was startling. Alex leaned against the wall, letting out a long sigh. I never want to see lava again. Mia laughed softly, wiping her face with the back of her hand. Tell me about it, but we made it. For a moment, they simply stood there, catching their breath and letting the tension ease from their bodies. The maze had been grueling, but they had worked together to overcome it. Their teamwork had carried them through yet another challenge, strengthening the bond between them. After a few minutes, Maya straightened up, adjusting her gear. We're not done yet, she reminded him. There's still more ahead. Alex nodded, pushing off the wall. Right. Let's finish this. They exchanged a determined look before stepping forward into the unknown. Though tired and sore, they were ready to face whatever came next. Together, they had proven time and again that they could handle anything Sunspire Academy threw at them. And they weren't about to stop now. The final stretch of the trial led Alex and Mia into a vast chamber that took their breath away. At its center stood a colossal statue of a fiery phoenix, its wings spread wide and its eyes glowing with an intense orange light. The air shimmered with heat, and the walls were lined with intricate carvings of flames and feathers. It felt like they had stepped into the heart of a volcano. Before they could take another step, the ground trembled beneath their feet. The statue began to move, its stone surface shifting and cracking until it transformed into a towering mechanical guardian. Its body was made of gleaming metal, and jets of fire erupted from its mouth as it roared. The sound was deafening, echoing through the chamber like thunder. This must be the last test, Maya said, gripping her weapon tightly. Her voice was calm, but Alex could see the tension in her expression. Alex swallowed hard, his pulse racing. It's huge, he muttered, his eyes wide as he stared at the massive machine. How are we supposed to beat something like that? We'll figure it out, Maya replied firmly. Just stay close and watch for patterns. The Guardian didn't give them much time to think. With a loud screech, it unleashed a torrent of flames, forcing them to dive out of the way. The heat singed the edges of Alex's jacket, and he rolled to his feet, clutching his plasma baton. Mia was already on the move, darting around the Guardian's legs to get closer. Watch its movements, she shouted over the roar of fire. There's got to be a weak spot. Alex focused on the machine, observing how it attacked. It moved in bursts, alternating between spraying fire and swinging its massive claws. After a few moments, he noticed something, a small panel on its chest that glowed faintly when it prepared to attack. Mia, look, he called out, pointing at the panel. That's got to be it. She nodded, her eyes narrowing. I'll distract it. You go for the panel. Without waiting for a response, Mia charged forward, firing her grappling hook at the Guardian's arm. The hook latched onto the metal, and she used it to swing herself upward, landing on its shoulder. The Guardian roared and swiped at her, but she jumped down just in time, drawing its attention away from Alex. Seizing the opportunity, Alex sprinted toward the machine. He dodged streams of fire and narrowly avoided being crushed by its claws. His heart pounded as he reached the base of the Guardian and leaped onto its leg, climbing quickly. The metal was hot, burning his palms even through his gloves, but he ignored the pain. When he reached the glowing panel, he swung his baton with all his strength, striking it repeatedly. The panel sparked and sputtered, then exploded in a shower of sparks. The Guardian let out a deafening roar, its movements becoming erratic. Alex scrambled off the machine just as it collapsed, crumbling into a pile of ash and molten metal. For a moment, the chamber was silent except for the sound of their heavy breathing. Alex leaned against the wall, his arms trembling with exhaustion. Mia walked over to him, her face flushed but triumphant. We did it, she said, smiling despite her fatigue. We actually did it. Alex managed to grin, though his legs felt like jelly. Yeah, we did. That was insane. They stood there for a while, letting the adrenaline fade, and the reality of what they had accomplished sink in. The Guardian had been the toughest challenge yet, but they had faced it together and won. Finally, Mia straightened up, wiping sweat from her brow. "Come on. We're almost done. Let's finish this." Alex nodded, pushing off the wall. His body ached, and his hands stung from the burns, but he didn't care. They had made it this far, and nothing was going to stop them now. Side by side, they walked toward the exit, ready to face whatever came next. Their journey through the fiery trial had tested them in every way possible, but it had also shown them the strength they had when they worked as a team. And no matter what happened after this, Alex knew one thing for sure: they were unstoppable together. The exit from the underground tunnels led Alex and Mia back into the warm sunlight of Sunspire Academy's courtyard. The contrast between the fiery depths they had just escaped and the open sky above was startling but welcome. Their clothes were dirty, their faces streaked with sweat and soot, but neither of them cared. They had made it through the fiery trial, and they weren't alone. Other teams trickled out of the tunnels behind them, some looking as worn out as Alex and Mia, others barely able to stand. Instructors waited near the grand hall, their expressions unreadable as they watched the students emerge. Mr. Grayson stood at the front, his arms crossed over his chest. His sharp eyes scanned the group, lingering on Alex and Mia for a moment before moving on. "Line up," he commanded, his voice cutting through the murmurs of the crowd. Everyone obeyed quickly, forming rows in front of him. Alex and Mia stood side by side, their shoulders brushing lightly. Despite their exhaustion, there was an unspoken confidence between them. They had faced every challenge together and survived. One by one, the instructors began announcing the results. Names were called, and teams stepped forward to hear whether they had passed or failed. Tension filled the air as each verdict was delivered. Some students lowered their heads in disappointment, while others cheered quietly for their success. Alex clenched his fists nervously, waiting for their turn. Finally, Mr. Grayson spoke. "Alex Carter and Mia Dawson, winners of the fiery trial." A wave of cheers erupted around them. Alex blinked, stunned for a moment before turning to Mia. Her face lit up with a wide grin, and she nudged him playfully. "Guess we did it," she said, her voice filled with pride. "We really did," Alex replied, smiling back. He couldn't believe it. They had actually won. All the fear, frustration, and hard work had paid off. As they stepped forward to accept their recognition, Alex felt a swell of gratitude, not just for winning, but for everything they had been through together. Later, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and red, Alex found himself sitting on a bench near the courtyard. Mia joined him after a while, her auburn hair catching the last rays of light. "Can't believe it's over," she said, leaning back with a sigh. "Yeah," Alex agreed. "Feels like it went by so fast." Mia glanced at him, her expression thoughtful. "You know, I wasn't sure about this trial at first, but working with you made all the difference." Alex felt a warmth spread through him, not from the fading sunlight, but from her words. "Same here," he admitted. "I don't think I could have done it without you." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching as the academy grounds grew quiet. The fiery trial had tested them in ways they never imagined, pushing them to their limits physically, mentally, and emotionally. But it had also forged a bond between them that would last long after the trial ended. As the stars began to appear in the darkening sky, Alex realized something important. Winning the trial wasn't just about proving themselves. It was about discovering what they were capable of when they worked together. And no matter what challenges lay ahead at Sunspire Academy, he knew they could face them, as long as they had each other. For now, though, they allowed themselves a moment of peace, letting the weight of the trial lift from their shoulders. Tomorrow would bring new adventures, new tests, and new opportunities. But tonight, under the vast night sky, Alex and Mia simply enjoyed the quiet satisfaction of knowing they had risen to the challenge, and emerged stronger than ever.